The film opens by showing Arrakis, a harsh desert planet filled with endless sand dunes and deadly heat. The native people, known as the Fremen, have lived there for generations. Despite the unforgiving environment, Arrakis holds the most valuable resource in the galaxy: spice. It is not cooking spice, but a shimmering substance essential for interstellar travel. With spice, navigators can fold space and move ships across the universe in an instant. Because of this, the entire empire depends on Arrakis. For the last 80 years, the brutal Harkonnen family controlled the planet and harvested the spice for their own wealth. They cared little for the land or the Fremen people. Tension grew for decades as the Fremen resisted, but the Harkonnens always had superior power. One day, the Emperor suddenly orders the Harkonnens to leave Arrakis. This is not a moment of peace, but the beginning of a much larger political game. The Fremen watch the skies with their bright blue eyes, a result of long-term exposure to spice. They hope for change, but remain wary. Even if the Harkonnens are gone, they do not trust that the next rulers will treat them better. Far from Arrakis, on the ocean planet Caladan, we meet Paul Atreides, the only son of Duke Leto and Lady Jessica. Paul is intelligent, calm, and curious. Since childhood, he has been trained to one day lead House Atreides. But lately, he has been troubled by strange dreams, especially visions of a Fremen girl standing in the desert. His mother, Jessica, belongs to the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood, a mysterious order of women trained in physical and mental disciplines. One of their abilities is called the voice, a technique that allows them to control others using certain tones. Even though she shouldn't, Jessica secretly teaches Paul this ability. News arrives that the Emperor has ordered House Atreides to take over Arrakis and replace the Harkonnens in managing the spice. This sounds like an honor, but Duke Leto knows better. He realizes it is a political trap. The Harkonnens will not accept losing their wealth so easily, and the Emperor may have his own dark motives. Paul begins researching the Fremen, the deadly sandworms, and everything about Arrakis. Deep inside, he feels that the dreams and the move to Arrakis are connected to something bigger than he understands. When the Emperor's delegation arrives at Caladan, Jessica sees someone she didn't expect: Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam, her former teacher. She has come to test Paul personally. Paul is brought into a dark room and ordered to put his hand inside a mysterious box. A poisoned needle called the Gom Jabbar is held at his neck. The box creates intense pain, as if his hand is burning. He must endure it. If he pulls his hand out, the Reverend Mother will kill him instantly. This test is meant to determine whether he can control himself like a rational human or acts purely on instinct like an animal. Paul withstands the pain, surprising the Reverend Mother. She then questions him about his dreams of the Fremen girl and the great war he keeps seeing. Outside, Jessica is scolded for giving birth to a son when the Bene Gesserit wanted a daughter. After this test, Paul realizes his life will never be normal again. The Reverend Mother hints he might be the Kwisatz Haderach, a prophesied figure capable of seeing both past and future. Whether this is salvation or danger remains unknown. The Atreides family finally leaves Caladan and heads to Arrakis. As their massive ship descends, endless dunes stretch across the horizon. Upon arrival, the locals shout a mysterious phrase when they see Paul, calling him Lisan al-Gaib, a kind of messianic figure in their legends. Paul and Jessica fly in a small ornithopter to survey their new home. The main fortress is heavily shielded from the heat and the sandworms, but Duke Leto notices that most of the spice harvesters left behind by the Harkonnens are damaged. Someone clearly sabotaged them. Inside the fortress, Jessica meets Shadout Mapes, a Fremen servant. Mapes tests Jessica and eventually offers her a sacred knife called a Krisk knife, made from a sandworm's tooth. This is a rare honor and a sign that the Fremen sense something special about her and Paul. Later, Paul encounters a tiny remote-controlled assassin device. He narrowly escapes and captures it. This assassination attempt proves that danger is already surrounding House Atreides on their first day in Arrakis. Far away, on the industrial planet Giedi Prime, the Harkonnens regroup. Their leader, Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, receives the Reverend Mother. She brings news from the Emperor. He will secretly send elite Sardaukar troops to help the Harkonnens wipe out House Atreides. The handover of Arrakis was never meant to be peaceful. It was a trap designed by the Emperor himself, who fears the rising influence of House Atreides. The Reverend Mother makes Baron promise not to harm Paul and Jessica directly, because they are Bene Gesserit. The Baron agrees in a technical sense. He plans to dump them in the desert, letting the sandworms kill them instead. With the Emperor and the Harkonnens working together, the fate of House Atreides looks grim. Paul continues to struggle with his visions, feeling a storm of danger closing in on him from all sides. Duke Leto, Paul, and Dr. Kynes travel deep into the desert to inspect spice harvesting operations. Before departing, they wear still suits crafted by Fremen technology, which recycle body moisture and protect them from deadly heat. From above, they see spice shimmering like gold dust across the desert floor. But beauty quickly turns into fear when Kynes detects signs of an approaching sandworm. These creatures, called Shai Hulud by the Fremen, are massive and drawn to rhythmic vibrations. A giant harvester machine breaks down during the evacuation. Leto orders everyone to abandon the equipment and focus on saving the workers. Paul jumps down to help, but ends up inhaling large amounts of spice. He becomes overwhelmed with intense visions and voices calling him the Kwisatz Haderach. The sandworm emerges, towering above them. Its size and presence are overwhelming. Paul stands frozen until Kynes snaps him out of it, and they run back to safety.
After returning from the desert, Duke Leto realizes they have been set up from the start. All the equipment left by the Harkonnens is destroyed. They cannot defend themselves or gather spice efficiently. When Leto confronts Dr. Kynes, she simply replies that she obeys the Emperor, hinting that she cannot help him. Paul's visions grow stronger. He sees Fremen warriors, battles across the galaxy, and the girl he keeps dreaming about. Jessica becomes anxious, sensing that Paul's abilities are awakening too fast. At the same time, the fortress feels increasingly unsafe. Servants are acting strangely, systems malfunction, and a body is found murdered. Dr. Youth, the trusted physician of House Atreides, seems troubled, but no one suspects the truth. The Harkonnens have captured his wife and forced him into betrayal. House Atreides is on the edge of collapse, yet no one fully understands just how close disaster has come. That night, Duke Leto senses danger and refuses to take his sleeping pill. When he checks the hallway, he finds a servant dead. Before he can act, Dr. Youth appears and shoots a paralyzing dart into his back. Leto collapses helplessly. Outside, the attack begins. The sky rains fire as Harkonnen ships and Sardaukar troops storm Arrakis. Explosions tear through the fortress. House Atreides soldiers fight bravely, but are overwhelmed. Dr. Youth, torn by guilt, secretly places the family signet ring and a survival kit in a bag intended for Paul. He also replaces one of Leto's teeth with a poisonous capsule. If Leto bites it in the presence of Baron Harkonnen, the gas will kill everyone nearby. Paul and Jessica are kidnapped and flown into the desert, where they're meant to be thrown out and left to die. Inside the flying craft, Jessica's arms are tied and her mouth is sealed because the kidnappers know she can use the voice. Paul tries using the voice, but fails at first. When the door is opened to throw them out, he focuses deeply and succeeds. He forces a guard to free Jessica. Once freed, Jessica uses the voice to make the guards attack each other. Paul and Jessica take control of the craft, but soon realize the Harkonnens have disabled it remotely. They land safely, but can no longer fly. Paul finds the kit that Youth left behind, complete with water, supplies, and the Atreides signet ring. In a message, Youth apologizes for the betrayal and reveals that Duke Leto has already been captured. At the fortress, Leto bites down on the poison tooth, filling the room with deadly gas. Countless enemies fall, but the Baron escapes to float to safety. Paul now understands that his father is dead, and his journey on Arrakis has entered a new, harsher stage. Inside a small cave created with Yua's tolls, Paul and Jessica take shelter from the sandstorm. Paul's visions intensify. He sees a galaxy-wide holy war led in his name, with Fremen warriors fighting under his banner. The images frighten him deeply. He wonders if destiny is guiding him towards something unstoppable. Jessica tries to comfort him, but Paul reveals he sensed the life of his unborn sister, something Jessica only learned recently. His connection to the future grows stronger with every moment spent on Arrakis. When the storm passes, they emerge and meet Duncan Idaho and Dr. Kynes. Duncan brings news of the fall of House Atreides. Almost everyone has been killed. He takes them to an old ecological station hidden in the desert. Here, Paul accepts the reality of his new responsibility.
He puts on his father's ring and declares himself the rightful head of House Atreides. His path is now set, whether he wants it or not. At the ecological station, Dr. Kynes gives Paul and Jessica new still suits and leads them to an ornithopter to escape before the Sardaukar arrive. But the enemy reaches the hideout sooner than expected. Duncan Idaho steps forward alone to protect them. The fight is intense. Duncan battles dozens of Sardaukar soldiers with unmatched skill. With his last breath, he salutes Paul, acknowledging him as the new Duke. Dr. Kynes attempts to escape, but is cornered by Sardaukar. Before being captured, she activates a thumper device, calling a giant sandworm. The creature erupts from the sand, swallowing everyone, including Kynes. Her sacrifice gives Paul and Jessica enough time to fly into a powerful storm. As their damaged ornithopter enters the massive sandstorm, the wind throws them violently. 3 missiles chasing them are destroyed by the swirling sand. The storm is so strong that the aircraft begins to break apart. Paul receives a vision telling him to surrender to the storm rather than fight it. He lets go of the controls and allows the wind to carry the craft. Miraculously, the storm spits them out and they crash land on the desert floor. The aircraft is ruined, but they survive. Back at the Harkonnen base, the Baron learns Paul and Jessica entered the storm. Convinced they are dead, the Baron orders Rabban to resume spice production and wipe out the Fremen population. Paul and Jessica begin walking south using Duncan's compass, hoping to find a Fremen community. The journey will be long and full of danger, but it is their only chance. As Paul and Jessica cross the desert, they use the sandwalk, a technique that avoids rhythmic steps so sandworms will not notice them. The ground occasionally trembles, reminding them that something massive lurks below. But everything goes wrong when Paul steps on drum sand. The deep, echoing sound immediately summons a sandworm. The ground shakes violently as the enormous creature races toward them. They run for the rocks, the only safe place. Just as they reach higher ground, the sand explodes upward, revealing the sandworm's gigantic mouth. Rows of sharp teeth glow in the sun. Strangely, the worm pauses, as if observing Paul before turning away, distracted by another sound. This silent moment leaves Paul unsettled, as if the worm recognized him in some way. Moments later, a group of Fremen appears, surrounding them. The meeting that Paul saw in his dreams has finally become real. The group is led by Stilgar, a Fremen leader who once met Duke Leto. But one of the warriors, Jamis, insists that Paul and Jessica must die so their water can be reclaimed. Jessica proves her skill by overpowering Stilgar in a swift move, earning the respect of several Fremen. But Jamis refuses to back down. He challenges Paul to an Umtal duel, a fight to the death. Before the duel, the girl from Paul's visions appears. Her name is Chani. She gives him a krisk knife and says she does not believe he is their prophesied savior, but hopes he will die honorably. During the fight, Paul easily gains the upper hand, but hesitates. He has never killed anyone before. Stilgar reminds him that Umtal must end in death. With no choice, Paul delivers the final blow. By killing Jamis, Paul earns a place in the Fremen tribe. After the ritual for Jamis, Paul is accepted into Stilgar's group. Some Fremen see signs of prophecy in him, while others remain uncertain. Jessica urges him to find a way off Arrakis and gather allies among the noble houses. But Paul has a different vision. He believes that his father's true goal was to form an alliance with the Fremen, not to dominate Arrakis. He decides to stay and build strength among them instead of fleeing. As they travel toward the great Fremen settlement called Sietch Tabr, Paul sees a warrior riding a giant sandworm. The sight amazes him. Chani tells him this is nothing compared to what he will witness in the future. The film ends with Paul taking his first steps toward his new destiny, a path that will change the fate of the entire galaxy.